The morning sun of Kepler 442b casts long shadows across the pristine corridors of the Xenobiology Research Institute, its golden light filtering through the massive transparisteel windows that offered breathtaking views of the planet's crimson mountain ranges. Unlike the sterile stations orbiting distant stars, this facility had been built on solid ground, a deliberate choice that allowed researchers to study specimens in conditions closer to their natural habitats. Isis adjusted her crystalline form. As she glided down the corridor, her silicon-based structure catching and refracting the morning light into dancing rainbows. The Litharian exchange student had traveled 3 sectors to reach this facility, drawn by its reputation as the Galaxies' premier xenobiology research center. Her translucent body hummed with barely contained excitement as she approached the Apex Containment Laboratory. "You're early again," observed Corv, the Zephyrian's insectoid features clicking in what passed for amusement among his hive-minded species. His forearms carried various scanning devices, while his compound eyes tracked multiple data streams simultaneously. "The morning observation session doesn't begin for another standard hour." "I cannot help myself," Isis replied, her voice resonating like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "In all my cycles of study, I have never encountered specimens of such ... intensity. The void stalker alone represents evolutionary perfection that my people have only theorized about." Nala materialized beside them, her telepathic abilities allowing her to navigate the corridors without relying on sight. The Telephant's pale, elongated form moved with fluid grace, her large black eyes reflecting depths of understanding that came from experiencing the thoughts of countless species. "The creature's mental emanations are disturbing," she whispered, her voice carrying the weight of someone who had touched the minds of nightmares. "Even through the quantum barriers, I can sense its hunger. It dreams of consuming entire star systems." The 3 alien students entered the observation chamber, joining a handful of other researchers from across the galaxy. The room resembled a university lecture hall, more than a containment facility, with tiered seating arranged around a massive viewing window. Beyond the quantum glass barrier lay a habitat that defied conventional physics, pocket dimension designed to hold the most dangerous creature ever successfully contained. The Void Stalker paced within its prison, and even veteran researchers felt their survival instincts scream warnings. 12 feet of rippling shadow flesh moved with predatory grace, its form seeming to bend reality around its edges. Where it stepped, the very air seemed to darken, and the temperature dropped perceptibly, even through the containment field. Its claws, capable of tearing through molecular bonds, left brief scars in spacetime, itself Dr. Vex High, the facility's reptilian chief researcher, began the morning briefing. Specimen 01 was captured after a 3-year campaign that cost 17 battle fleets and resulted in the evacuation of 4 entire star systems. It represents the apex of predatory evolution, a creature that has driven 7 species to extinction and consumed the biosphere of 12 worlds. Isis leaned forward, her crystalline structure resonating with fascination. "The energy readings are extraordinary. It's not just physically dangerous, it's warping local spacetime through sheer presence. The pheromone analysis suggests it can track prey across interstellar distances." Corv added, his compound eyes processing data from multiple spectrums simultaneously. "No known species has ever escaped once it begins the hunt." Nala shuddered, her telepathic abilities picking up the creature's alien thoughts. "It doesn't just hunt for survival. It hunts for the pleasure of the kill, the satisfaction of ending life. I've never encountered a mind so purely devoted to destruction." The Void Stalker suddenly stopped its pacing, its attention focused on something beyond the viewing chamber. Its massive head turned toward the entrance, and for the first time since its capture, the creature's absolute confidence seemed to waver. The temperature in the containment field fluctuated wildly, and the quantum barriers registered unprecedented stress patterns. What's causing that reaction? Dr. Vexhai demanded, checking his instruments frantically. The answer came in the form of Dr. Harrison, who shuffled into the observation chamber with a travel mug of coffee in one hand and a half-eaten breakfast sandwich in the other. "Sorry I'm late, folks," he said with a casual smile, completely oblivious to the chaos his presence had triggered. "Traffic was murder on the transport grid, and I couldn't leave without grabbing coffee. You know how it is." The human researcher was utterly unremarkable by his species standards, middle-aged, slightly overweight, with graying hair and laugh lines around his eyes. He wore a rumpled lab coat over casual clothes, and his only distinguishing feature was a small pin on his lapel showing a stylized earth with the words "World's Greatest Grandpa." But as Dr. Harrison approached the viewing window, something unprecedented occurred. The void stalker apex predator of the known universe, consumer of worlds, nightmare of civilizations, began to retreat. The silence in the observation chamber was absolute. 23 researchers from across the galaxy watched in stunned disbelief as the most dangerous creature in known space pressed itself against the far wall of its containment field, its reality-warping abilities flickering erratically like a malfunctioning HOLO-display. Dr. Harrison, completely unaware of the cosmic drama unfolding before him, took a sip of his coffee and peered through the quantum glass barrier. Looks like our friend is having a rough day. Maybe we should give him some space," he suggested, his tone carrying the same casual concern one might show for a stressed family pet. Isis felt her crystalline structure vibrate with confusion. In all her studies of evolutionary biology, she had never encountered a scenario where an apex predator would retreat from what appeared to be a completely harmless specimen. "This is impossible," she whispered, her voice creating harmonic frequencies that resonated through the chamber. "The void stalker has never shown fear. It doesn't possess the neural pathways for such a response." Corv's compound eyes were processing data streams at maximum capacity, his hive mind consciousness reaching out to consult with billions of his species across the galaxy. "The sensor readings are contradictory," he reported, his clicking mandibles betraying his agitation. "The human's biometric signature is completely normal standard mammalian physiology. No unusual energy emissions, no detectable pheromones or psychic abilities. Yet the void stalker's behavior suggests it's encountering something that triggers its most primal survival instincts." Dr. Vexhai had abandoned his usual composed demeanor, his reptilian features displaying the kind of distress typically reserved for facility-wide emergencies. "In 40 years of xenobiology research, I have never seen anything like this. The creature's fear response is so intense that it's causing feedback loops in the containment field. If this continues, we may need to evacuate the entire section." Nala pressed her pale hands against her temples, her telepathic abilities overwhelmed by the psychic emanations from the containment field. Its thoughts, their chaos, pure, primal terror. It's not just afraid, it's experiencing the kind of fear that reaches back through millions of years of evolutionary memory. Something in its genetic code is screening warnings about the human, but I cannot understand what it's detecting. Dr. Harrison, still oblivious to the crisis, pulled out a tablet and began making notes. The behavioral change is fascinating. Yesterday, it was displaying typical aggressive territoriality, but today, it's exhibiting what looks like submission behavior. Has anyone checked the atmospheric composition in the containment field? Maybe there's a chemical imbalance affecting its neurotransmitters. The human's clinical detachment only seemed to intensify the void stalker's distress. The creature's form began to lose cohesion, its shadow flesh rippling as if it were struggling to maintain its physical integrity. The quantum barriers registered energy spikes that made the monitoring equipment screech warnings. "We need to remove Dr. Harrison from the observation chamber," Dr. Vexhai announced, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. Whatever's causing this reaction, we cannot risk. Wait, Isis interrupted, her crystalline form pulsing with sudden insight. Look at the other specimens. The observation chamber was connected to a network of monitoring stations that tracked every contained creature in the facility. On the screens around the room, similar scenes were playing out across dozens of containment units. A telepathic parasite that could read minds from 3 sectors away was pressing itself against the far wall of its cell, its psychic screams of terror echoing through the telepathic dampeners. A viral entity that consumed biological matter at the molecular level was attempting to compress itself into the smallest possible space, its corrosive secretions eating through its own body in its panic. They're all reacting the same way, Korv observed, his mandibles clicking rapidly as he processed the data. Every apex predator in the facility is exhibiting identical fear responses. The quantum phase hunter, the reality devourer, the nightmare. Plague, they're all terrified of something they detect in Dr. Harrison's presence. The human researcher looked up from his tablet, his expression showing mild curiosity. Are they? That's odd. I've always gotten along well with animals. My neighbors back on Earth always ask me to pet sit their dogs and cats when they go on vacation. I've got a real knack for calming nervous critters. This casual statement sent a ripple of confusion through the alien researchers. The idea that the creatures in their facility, each one capable of destroying entire civilizations, could be compared to domestic animals was beyond their comprehension. Dr. Harrison continued making notes, his scientific curiosity clearly engaged. You know, this reminds me of something I saw on a nature documentary about wolf behavior. When a wolf encounters a scent marker from a more dominant predator, it will instinctively retreat and avoid the area. It's a survival mechanism that prevents unnecessary conflicts with superior hunters. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. The alien researchers exchanged glances, each one grappling with the implications of what the human had just suggested. The Void Stalker wasn't just afraid, it was recognizing something in Dr. Harrison that its evolutionary instincts classified as a superior predator. But how could that be possible? The human was clearly a herbivorous species, soft and vulnerable compared to the armored and weaponized forms of the galaxy's apex predators. He showed no signs of enhanced physical capabilities, no evidence of supernatural abilities, no trace of the reality-warping powers that made the Void Stalker so dangerous. The answer would require investigation, but first, they had to deal with the immediate crisis. The containment fields were showing signs of stress, and several of the more dangerous specimens were beginning to exhibit destructive behaviors born of panic. If they didn't find a solution soon, they might face a facility-wide containment breach. The emergency protocols activated throughout the facility as Dr. Harrison was gently escorted to a safe distance from the containment areas. The human researcher seemed puzzled by the sudden attention, but cooperated willingly, settling into a comfortable chair in the main conference room with his coffee and a stack of research papers. I don't understand what all the fuss is about, he said, adjusting his reading glasses. I've been working here for 3 months without any incidents. The specimens seemed perfectly normal around me before today. Dizes, Korv, and Nala had been granted special permission to assist in the investigation, their unique perspectives deemed valuable by the facility's administration. They gathered around a holographic display showing the biometric readings from every contained specimen, the data painting a picture that defied conventional understanding. The temporal analysis is revealing, Isis observed, her crystalline form shifting through different configurations as she processed the information. The specimen's stress levels have been gradually increasing since Dr. Harrison's arrival, but so subtly that our monitoring systems classified it as normal behavioral variation. Today's dramatic response appears to be the culmination of a slow-building recognition process. Dr. Vexhai materialized beside them, his reptilian features showing the strain of the day's events. We've reviewed 3 months of security footage, and the pattern is unmistakable. Every apex predator in the facility has been unconsciously avoiding areas where Dr. Harrison has recently been present. They've been detecting something our instruments cannot measure. Corv's hive mind consciousness had been consulting with xenobiology experts across the galaxy, and his findings were disturbing. The collective knowledge of 17 species confirms that this behavior is unprecedented. No known creature has ever caused such a universal fear response among apex predators. The phenomenon appears to be unique to humans, or at least to this particular human. Nala had been attempting to use her telepathic abilities to understand the creature's mental state, but the results were fragmentary and confusing. Their thoughts are chaotic, but I can sense recurring patterns. They're not just afraid of Dr. Harrison. They're afraid of what he represents. Something in their genetic memory is triggering warning systems that evolved over millions of years. The breakthrough came when Dr. Harrison, still trying to be helpful, offered to share his personal research files. I've been working on a comparative study of predator-prey relationships across different biospheres, he explained, accessing his personal database. It's fascinating how similar hunting strategies evolve, independently on different worlds. The files revealed a treasure trove of information about Earth's biological history, but one particular document caught Tice's attention. This classification system for Earth's apex predators is extensive, she noted, her voice carrying newfound respect. You have documented 17 different species that your people classify as dangerous game. Dr. Harrison nodded enthusiastically. Oh yes, humans have always been fascinated by apex predators. We've studied them, hunted them, and in many cases, driven them to near extinction. It's a bit embarrassing from a conservation standpoint, but you have to admire the efficiency of human hunting techniques. The casual way he discussed the systematic hunting of apex predators sent chills through the alien researchers. Corv began cross-referencing the Earth species with the contained specimens, and the results were illuminating. The behavioral patterns match, he reported, his mandibles clicking with excitement. The void stalker's retreat behavior is identical to what Earth's apex predators display when encountering evidence of human hunting activity. The creatures in our facility are recognizing Dr. Harrison as a member of a species that has successfully hunted every apex predator on their homeworld. But the true revelation came when Dr. Harrison began sharing stories of his weekend activities. I'm actually heading back to Earth this weekend for some recreational hunting. Haven't bagged a grizzly in months, and the salmon run is supposed to be excellent this year. My grandson is finally old enough to come along. Kids these days need to learn how to track and hunt properly. The words hit the alien researchers like a physical blow. The human wasn't just a member of a species that had hunted apex predators. He was an active participant in that hunting culture. To him, the idea of tracking and killing creatures that could destroy entire ecosystems was a pleasant family activity. You hunt apex predators for recreation? Dizes asked, her crystalline form dimming with shock. Well, sure, Dr. Harrison replied with a shrug. Humans have been hunting since we learned to make tools. It's in our nature. We've got specialized equipment, techniques passed down through generations, and entire industries built around it. Some of our most popular entertainment involves watching humans track and hunt dangerous animals. Nala pressed her hands against her temples, her telepathic abilities overwhelmed by the implications. The specimens can sense this somehow. They're detecting the evolutionary signature of a species that doesn't just survive alongside apex predators. They've made a hobby of hunting them. Dr. Vexhai's reptilian features showed a mixture of fascination and horror. The creature's instincts are recognizing something that our technology cannot measure. Dr. Harrison, Terry's the genetic and cultural markers of a species that has systematically hunted every apex predator on their world, to the point where such hunting is considered a recreational activity. The final piece of the puzzle came when Dr. Harrison mentioned his plans to visit Earth's natural history museums with his grandson. Kids love seeing all the extinct megafauna we've got on display. Saber-toothed cats, dire wolves, cave bears. Humans hunted them all to extinction thousands of years ago. Now we put them in museums so children can learn about them safely. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The most dangerous creatures in the galaxy weren't just afraid of Dr. Harrison. They were afraid of a species that had turned hunting apex predators into entertainment for their offspring. Asterisk, the conference room had been transformed into a command center with holographic displays showing the facility's status and behavioral data from every contained specimen. The alien researchers worked frantically to understand the phenomenon that had upended their understanding of predator hierarchies, while Dr. Harrison sat peacefully in the corner, grading papers from his Earth-based students. The quantum phase. Hunter has been catatonic for 6 hours, reported Dr. Cathara, a crystalline researcher whose species had been studying apex predators for millennia. This is a creature that exists partially outside normal spacetime, capable of hunting prey across dimensional barriers. Yet it refuses to manifest in any section of the facility where Dr. Harrison has been present. Dyses had been analyzing the evolutionary data with increasing fascination and horror. I've been comparing Earth's predator evolution with the specimens in our containment units. The pattern is unprecedented. Most worlds develop a handful of apex predators that reach an evolutionary equilibrium. Earth developed hundreds, and humans systematically hunted them all. The data streams showed the true scope of humanity's impact on their homeworld's predator ecosystem. Species after species had fallen to human hunting techniques, not through accidental extinction, but through deliberate, methodical campaigns that spanned millennia. Corv's hive mind consciousness had been consulting with the galaxy's foremost experts on predator behavior, and their conclusions were unanimous. The collective analysis confirms that humans represent a unique evolutionary phenomenon. No other species has successfully hunted every apex predator on their world and survived to develop spacefaring technology. Dr. Harrison looked up from his papers, his expression showing mild interest in the conversation. It's not that remarkable, really. Humans are persistence hunters. We don't rely on speed or strength like most predators. We use tools, teamwork, and intelligence. Once we developed spears and coordinated hunting strategies, nothing on Earth could escape us for long. The casual way he described the extinction of entire species made the alien researchers uncomfortable. To them, apex predators were forces of nature to be respected and feared. To humans, they were apparently just another resource to be managed. But surely your species must have suffered casualties during these hunts, Dr. Vexhai said, his reptilian features showing concern. The risk of hunting such dangerous creatures must have been enormous. Dr. Harrison chuckled, a sound that somehow made the contained specimen's distress levels spike even higher. Oh, there were casualties, sure. But that's what made it sporting. Humans have always been attracted to dangerous prey. The more dangerous the animal, the more prestigious the hunt. We've got entire museums dedicated to human hunters who died pursuing apex predators. This revelation sent shockwaves through the research team. The idea that humans considered the danger of hunting apex predators to be a positive feature was beyond their comprehension. Nala had been monitoring the telepathic emanations from the containment areas, and her findings were increasingly disturbing. The creature's fear isn't just about Dr. Harrison as an individual. They're detecting something deeper, a species-wide adaptation that marks humans as the ultimate predator. Their genetic memory is responding to evolutionary pressure that spans millions of years. The breakthrough came when Dr. Harrison offered to show them his personal collection of hunting trophies. "I've got some great photos from last year's safari. Bagged a 12-foot crocodile and a Kodiak bear in the same week." My wife wasn't too happy about the taxidermy bills, but the grandkids love having them in the game room. The images he shared were more disturbing than any horror the aliens had witnessed. Not because they were particularly violent, but because they showed an ordinary human family casually surrounded by the preserved remains of creatures that would have been apex predators. On any other world, you display the bodies of your kills in your home? Thais asked, her crystalline form flickering with incomprehension. "Well, of course," Dr. Harrison replied, seeming puzzled by the question. "Trophy hunting is a family tradition. My father taught me, his father taught him, and so on. We've got mounted heads going back 6 generations. It's a way of honoring the hunt and showing respect for the animal." The cognitive dissonance was staggering. Humans had somehow developed a cultural system where hunting apex predators was simultaneously a recreational activity and a form of respect. They had turned the systematic destruction of their planet's most dangerous creatures into a family bonding experience. Dr. Vex High pulled up the facility's historical records, searching for any comparable phenomenon. "I've reviewed the behavioral patterns of every apex predator we've studied over the past century. None of them have ever shown this level of instinctive fear. The creatures in our facility aren't just afraid of Dr. Harrison, they're experiencing the kind of terror that reaches back through evolutionary time." The final revelation came when Dr. Harrison mentioned his upcoming retirement plans. "I'm thinking of opening a hunting lodge back on Earth. Nothing fancy, just a place where people can come and experience real hunting. The kind where you track dangerous game with nothing but skill and determination. These younger generations need to understand what real hunting is all about." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Dr. Harrison wasn't just a member of a species that had hunted apex predators. He was planning to teach others to do the same. To him, the systematic hunting of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures would be an educational experience, something to share with future generations. The contained specimens throughout the facility had gone completely silent, their terror so complete that they had shut down all non-essential functions. They weren't just afraid of what Dr. Harrison represented. They were afraid of what he might teach others to become. 3 days had passed since the initial incident, and the facility had established new protocols for managing what the administration had classified as the human effect. Dr. Harrison had been relocated to a research station on the far side of the planet, where his presence wouldn't interfere with the specimen containment systems. But the implications of his visit continued to reverberate through the scientific community. Thais stood before the observation window, watching the void stalker slowly emerge from its catatonic state. The creature's behavior had fundamentally changed. Where once it had paced with predatory confidence, now it moved with a cautious awareness of prey. Its reality-warping abilities functioned normally, but they were no longer focused on hunting. Instead, they seemed to be constantly scanning for threats. "A psychological impact appears to be permanent," she observed, her crystalline form resonating with scientific fascination tinged with horror. "The creature's neural pathways have been rewired by a single encounter with human evolutionary presence. It's as if millions of years of apex predator conditioning have been overwritten in a matter of hours." Corv materialized beside her, his compound eyes tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. "The hive mind consensus is unanimous across 17 species. Humans represent a predator archetype that exceeds all known evolutionary models. They didn't just survive on a death world. They systematically hunted every apex predator on their planet to the point where such hunting became recreational entertainment." Dr. Vexhai had spent the past 3 days in consultation with xenobiology experts from across the galaxy, and their findings painted a picture that challenge everything they thought they knew about predator evolution. The evidence is undeniable. He reported, his reptilian features showing the strain of paradigm shift. Earth's ecosystem produced over 300 apex predator species during human evolution. Humans successfully hunted all of them. Not for survival, not for territory, but for the challenge and enjoyment of the hunt. The implications were staggering. Most civilizations developed alongside one or two apex predators, learning to coexist or avoid them. Humans had faced hundreds and had turned the systematic hunting of them into a cultural institution. Nala had been monitoring the telepathic emanations from the containment areas, and her findings revealed the true scope of the phenomenon. The creature's fear isn't just about physical danger, she explained, her pale features showing the strain of prolonged contact with terrified alien minds. They're detecting something that our instruments cannot measure, the evolutionary signature of a species that has made hunting apex predators a recreational activity spanning generations. The research team had obtained permission to interview Dr. Harrison via quantum communication, and his responses had only deepened their understanding of the human predator archetype. Hunting is just part of human culture, he had explained with characteristic casualness. We've got entire industries built around it. Television shows, magazines, equipment manufacturers, guide services, trophy preparation. It's a multi-billion credit economy. Every year, millions of humans travel to exotic locations specifically to hunt dangerous animals. The idea that humans had industrialized the hunting of apex predators was beyond the comprehension of most galactic species. They had turned the systematic destruction of their planet's most dangerous creatures into entertainment media. But the most disturbing revelation came when we asked about human children. Dr. Vexhai continued, his voice carrying the weight of cosmic horror. Dr. Harrison explained that human offspring are routinely exposed to hunting from an early age. They're taught to track, trap, and kill dangerous animals as part of their normal development. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Human children, the most vulnerable stage of any species. Development were being trained to hunt apex predators as a normal part of their education. The creatures in the facility weren't just afraid of Dr. Harrison. They were afraid of a species that raised its young to be predators of predators. ISIS accessed the cultural database Dr. Harrison had provided, and the contents were a catalog of systematic apex predator destruction. The historical records are extensive, she reported, her crystalline form dimming with shock. Humans have documented their hunting techniques, preserving the knowledge of how to kill every apex predator on their world. They've turned the extinction of dangerous species into an educational resource. The final piece of the puzzle came when they discovered humanity's relationship with controlled danger. Dr. Harrison had mentioned that humans kept some apex predators in zoos facilities, where dangerous creatures were displayed for the entertainment and education of human families. They don't just hunt apex predators, Corv observed, his mandibles clicking with disbelief. They also capture them alive and display them for their offspring to observe safely. To humans, every monster in our facility would be nothing more than an interesting exhibit for their children to enjoy. The contained specimens throughout the facility had finally begun to resume normal activities, but their behavior had been permanently altered. They moved with the wariness of prey animals, constantly alert for threats that their evolutionary programming insisted were present, but that they couldn't clearly identify. Dr. Vexhai pulled up the facility's revised protocols, which now included specific guidelines for human researchers. We've had to completely restructure our understanding of the predator hierarchy, he announced. Humans don't just occupy the apex position, they exist in a category entirely beyond it. They're not just predators. They're predators that have made hunting other predators into a recreational and educational institution. The story concluded with a chilling realization that would be transmitted to research facilities across the galaxy. The most dangerous creatures in the known universe, beings capable of consuming planets and destroying civilizations, had encountered something that their deepest evolutionary instincts recognized as a superior predator. Dr. Harrison's casual mention of his weekend hunting plans had revealed the truth. Humans didn't just survive alongside apex predators. They had turned the systematic hunting of them into a family activity, a cultural tradition, and a form of entertainment. To the creatures in the facility, Dr. Harrison represented something more terrifying than any monster. He represented a species that had made monsters. Afraid. As the research team prepared their final report, they grappled with a question that would haunt xenobiology for generations. What happens when the ultimate predators of the universe encounter a species that considers hunting ultimate predators to be a pleasant way to spend the weekend? The answer lay in the empty corridors of the containment facility, where the galaxy's most dangerous creatures cowered in the corners of their cells, their ancient instincts screening warnings about the soft-spoken human who had casually suggested they might be having a rough day. Asterisk.